Nice.
Hi, everybody.
Everyone.
Hello.
We had a technical difficulty for a second to get us. 10:01, we're here. It's actually been interesting. There's been a few outages this week. I feel like I've heard X was down. Instagram had some third-party connectivity issues. Heroku was down. There was some. I wonder if it was like AWS or someone was down bigger. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there was some stuff. What was the other one? Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny you say Heroku was down. I was like, has Heroku been up for the past few years? Kind of rugged their users and went away.
Yeah, you're right. I think Heroku was the first containerized like platform as a service company that I ever used like years ago.
No, they were pretty cool, but then they changed their business model because it was just not working for them, and they pivoted to just being a B2B, I think, company.
And they were acquired by Salesforce, right?
Oh, maybe
I think you're right. I think they were. Yeah.
But yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say acquired by Salesforce. I heard something the other day how like Slack. So you know how Slack was acquired by Salesforce like years ago. They just changed their terms of service, and so essentially,
well, you can't train on your proprietary, your own data.
You can't train on your own data that's like submitted through like Slack or whatever. Like Salesforce owns it or something. It's kind of crazy. So all those conversations of like your BDRs, your sales teams, internal communication is kind of like owned by Slack. It's pretty interesting. I mean, you can't train on it.
No, it is crazy to me. Slack is always, because everyone thinks Slack's pricing is ridiculous, which I agree.
Right.
Yet they still like use it, and it's crazy, especially now because you can come up with basically a Slack clone which has 90% of the features, privacy friendly, open source. There's tons of alternatives, but somehow we just never quite use it.
Right.
And it's great. It's weird, like how the per seat model and service just still works, for some reason, or people are just lazy or they have too much money. But I do think, I mean, the technology, I'm like, this has to go away. There's no way people are going to be pay this price if they can just, create the software on their own or for a 10 price.
I've always had the opinion that like incumbent software platforms that are like widely proliferated don't get really like change from like switching, but it's more of like the bigger change comes from a new generation of companies that decide, hey, maybe we don't need Slack right away. And we work on like we integrate with something else that has 90% of the features. Like we could have totally spent the time and looked at something else. It was just easy. And probably a few years ago didn't make sense yet. But I think that's kind of where you see like a new generation of companies no longer go to like the Outlooks, the Gmails. Maybe they go to Notion Mail or something crazy. I don't know.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
Hi, Mohammed. No, I think it's funny. I think all tech adoption, whether it be technology in SaaS or even in individual consumers, like what blows me away all the time is ad spend across channels going back to the 19th century, like radio and then cable. The spend never goes away. That generation continues to buy through those channels. It's just the new generation comes in and is the growth for digital, let's say. But radio still sticks around. So I think it's the same exact thing that you just said for companies. I think it's kind of almost a fundamental truth about life.
Yeah.
It's true. I wonder if it's like that's the same like psychology around why older generations kind of don't understand newer technology. Like people stay on Facebook and then that generation criticizes the newer generation, the younger generation for like doing something differently. Just like, I don't know, like I could imagine where maybe our generation, maybe not our generation, but a little bit older, where they criticize the younger generation on ChatGPT usage. Like the younger generation is going to go through high school, go through college with access to these like language models. And maybe it won't be like criticizing them. I don't think it will. It'll be more of like, it's just not as ingrained in their day-to-day activity as like Google was or something. They'll just be AI native. And I think that was like a reoccurring theme from this last week at the World's Fair to like AI native adoption and everything. So
yeah, exciting times. Yeah, so everyone watching, like we're back in our houses
Back.
or apartment,
so back.
apartment offices, or Jason
So
has has a proper office in Foundation. But yeah, it was a crazy week. It was awesome. Lots of takeaways. Before jumping into it, just to stay on the Heroku subject for a second, I wonder if you guys checked out. So there's this company called Fly.io, which I think it's like it hasn't quite, I would say, is a one for one, or in my opinion, I mean, it might be, but it's one of the companies that has filled that void that Heroku left, because Heroku basically drugged their users. They were like, because Heroku used to have this free plan. As a developer, you come in, you could spin up, like you said, Pearson, one of your first experiences was using Heroku. It's very common, in a few years ago. And then Heroku basically couldn't afford that plan, so they reneged on that. And then startups like Fly.io came in, and I've used Fly.io a couple of times, and they're really cool. I think if you guys haven't checked it out, definitely recommend.
That's
Right?
totally
It's just a nicer AWS, like spin up a machine, scale
Right.
it, etc. Just simple commands and stuff. So it was really nice.
right.
And it's just Docker containers at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Totally. And this is actually a cool segue for everybody watching or listening. We're going to start a new series. So every Wednesday, if this is the first time like hopping onto the live stream or watching, every Wednesday we do something called Weekly Wednesday, where we hop on a live stream. We talk about JellyPod, AI podcasting, the features that we've released in the last week, but also maybe like what's coming up, how to use our platform, what we're seeing, and just kind of talk for 30 minutes on every Wednesday about kind of the last week and the upcoming week. And we decided that sometimes we go on some riffs about media, about technology, a little bit more technical, that may not be relevant to JellyPod, but maybe in the broader sense of, hey, what new media generation tools are out there? This past week, VO3 came out, 11 Labs V3. So VO3 is like a video audio model. 11 Labs V3 is like a text-to-speech, very conversational, awesome dialogue model. There's Flux, there's Crea, there's all these like cool things, and the space moves so quickly. And I think that we have some really cool insights into the space. We stay up to date with all the news, with all the media, how people are using it, how we're using it, and we're going to start a new series that's more on the ground with these tools, with media gen, keeping up to date with the news, how people are using it, what we're saying works, what doesn't work, trends. So if that's something interested, stay up to date. We'll post a little bit more about this. We haven't decided on the name of the podcast series yet, but it'll be like a podcast YouTube series on Spotify, YouTube, and we'll just go into a little bit more depth about media, AI media gen. So we're super excited about that, and hopefully, if you're interested into hearing us talk a little bit more about technical stuff and media, hop on, listen to it. It'd be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excited for this.
Yeah.
I randomly also wanted to talk about VO3 because yesterday I spent a lot of time in VO3.
Oh yeah, I mean, you were like playing around. Like, what was your impressions?
Yeah.
My impression of VO3 is this new model came from Google. You can give it to text and it gives you a video, and sometimes they'll be talking if you choose to. I think it is the fastest way that I've seen to burn $8. It's like
I know. I warned you. Like, it rips through it, and you're like, oh, what the hell?
yeah, it's like I'm glad. Like the fact that it takes time to generate the video is good, because if it didn't do that, then you would just be burning money. Like
Right.
It's so fast. Like I'm like, yeah, it's wild. No,
Was
I mean
that
it's still
2 seconds
it's so
for
early.
$8.
Sorry,
How long is the video that you get for the $8 right now?
I think it's 8 seconds for $8. Is that right?
$6 for 8 seconds. So 75 cents per second if you do audio. If 50 cents if you don't do audio. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
Contrast that to Clinked on 2.1, which I think is the best model, like without audio and exclusive only to fall. That is the master. I think is like $3.25, but the standard image to video is 25 cents for 5 seconds. So that's a 50x or 75x difference. So yeah.
Yeah.
And
The hard part is you watch. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the hard part is you watch a video where someone's like someone wows you. You're like, wow, the lips were magical. And then you go to make your own, and they're talking like like that.
Yeah,
And you're like, damn it! Wait, where is the thing that I just
I
saw?
know. This is why I think the hack is just do something with a mask or something like where lips don't.
Yeah, like I just keep
Uh,
putting the enhanced video toggle on. Like maybe that'll do it.
Yeah.
what's also really interesting about this is like this is a problem that we face at JellyPod, but also here it's like you spend some time, you craft a prompt, you go to VO3, you say, hey, like, create a like a person talking and saying this and thing, and the mouth is all weird. It just doesn't. It's not good. Like your prompt was fine, but the generated video and audio just isn't good, and you're still charged. You know, we're living in a world where it's like no longer is the customer and the user kind of right. Like it will probably get down to that point again, but like right now, it's like you get what you get and you pay the money. And
Right.
it's sometimes, people get frustrated too on JellyPod where there's like a segment of audio that's corrupted or just sounds really off and people get frustrated. And it's hard for us to kind of proactively do that. There's some techniques to maybe figure that out, but it's really up to your ear. Like it's hard to determine programmatically like whether or not something was good. And so people reach out like, hey, like the audio sucked. And then we just will give you back the credits, but it's maybe there's an easier way to do it. So
Yeah.
for anyone, I mean, like if you're generating audio with like on JellyPod in your podcast and it just wasn't working, like just message and we'll help you out there.
Yeah. But you've done like, I mean, it's particularly your work on partial regeneration. I think this is why it's been so crucial because there's something about cost and latency. Like taking the image thing, the ChatGPT takes like 30 seconds to generate an image,
Right.
and I'll put in a prompt, generate an image. Then it's slightly off, but I'm like so annoyed. Then I have to do it again, and then I'm doing something else and kind of checking. And
Totally.
I think there's some studies on this, like when the latency or something just gets instant and it costs, like not only do you obviously your frustration goes down, but your creativity process increases because you're basically giving yourself permission. Oh, let's just perfect that because what's the worst that can happen? I waste a second more, right? So as we get these models improving, particularly with JellyPod, with partial, with the cost, I think we'll just have more creative, interesting scripts because people will just tinker around more and not worry about, oh, I don't want to just wait another 30 seconds to just get this right. It's
Right.
just not worth it, So
And for people that maybe are listening in for the first time, like what is partial regens?
yeah, I mean, partial regeneration. So the way we generate your script is, right now it's just two hosts or one host, but you can imagine host one is talking and then host two is talking, and we have these blocks. And so typically, if you want to change something, you can change something. It doesn't have to be per host, but usually it is because people go back and forth. And so you can just change that block and regenerate that, and we won't charge you for the host script. We'll just generate that, and that is cheaper for you, but also like quicker because you're just generating that piece and not the whole script again.
Right. It's pretty cool. I mean, like when we first released, for anyone that's still around, when we first launched, I mean, things have changed and improved dramatically because you had to generate the whole audio. Like if you made one small tweak to one speaker and what they were saying, you had to regenerate the whole audio. It was so frustrating. And the interesting thing, I mean, like building a company, a startup's like we could have spent a lot of engineering effort and delayed and just like built out this feature and not launched until we had this working. But you could do that with everything. Like you could just say, hey, it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Right.
Never release a feature. And so we put out on our initial like beta and for the launch, I mean, we didn't have this feature. You had to regenerate all the audio. People were so frustrated, but they were like they still loved it. And so if you're one of those people that have stuck around since then to now, and you're like watching this live stream, would love to just like throw some like I don't know something in the chat. Be like, I like the I don't know. Just let us know.
Day one Jelly Potter.
Yeah, and then you gotta go the Gen Z style dubs in the
dubs in the chat.
But no, speaking of just having
chat.
a very USA cleaner, cool feature that Pearson had this week was streaming scripts. So now when you generate a script, like it used to be you had to wait and the whole script would just show up, and now it just streams in, so that way you can instantly see it. And it's like it's interesting because you think about this kind of stuff, you're like, okay, yeah, what's the big deal? And to be honest with you, when I used to be that guy, because especially when the first AI models, I was like, all right, because I remember Vercel and so they were really getting in on the streaming thing. I'm like, yeah, it's cool, I guess, but does it matter? And it kind of does matter in terms of like, if you look at their data about user behavior and stuff, it's one of those things that just, it matters compoundingly. Like, not the first time or the second time, but when you do it 100 times over and over, it just feels nice. And then once you do it and you go back, is like when you really notice, like you're like,
Right.
oh wait, now I have this. I can't go back. So Pearson added this feature, which just to clarify again, when you generate a script, it'll just stream in a very cool, nice animated way, and so you can start reading your script and analyzing it, before it gets done. So we're just making everything fast and snappy
Right.
as possible.
It's funny how much it's like the next iteration of like the loading bar. Like, how awful is it to indefinitely wait for something, right? Like when you have no idea what's going to happen, but then someone tells you, "Oh, it'll be done in an X amount of time." You're like, "Okay, that's better." But
Right.
now you get to watch it being done, and then it's just sort of like becomes an activity. Then it's like, okay, this is like waiting just became fun,
Totally.
or at least productive.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know, like when I was building this out, it was actually pretty technically hard. Like Vercel made it easy, like how we the platform that we launch and deploy on and everything. There's some aspects there that made it much easier than it could have been, but there's some challenges that I had to get around, which was interesting, and I think they were solved. But if you find any issues in that streaming process or the transcript got weird, let us know. We've tested a lot, and I haven't seen anything really. But I found my satisfaction going through that flow, like definitely increased. I mean, I clicked generate script and there was some polish I did around the edges around like certain things and just make the flow better. But you wait like maybe 5 seconds or maybe 10 seconds, and then you start seeing the text stream in and your eyes start to go immediately to the transcript and you start to read the transcript. And so what I found personally was that previously, you just had this whole like loading bar. It's like loading transcript, then it'll pop in. But now it just goes, each speech block comes in and you can start reading it. And you can start like already thinking in your head, does this sound good? What will this sound like? And I think it's less overwhelming because if you just get this whole transcript, like, whoa, and then you don't do any sort of proofreading, you just go to click generate audio. You don't really have an idea of what it's going to sound like. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. So
Yeah, for sure.
that was my opinion.
Most
No,
definitely.
really.
And I couldn't resist because the AI space seems to love this, but every AI company has found some place to put in turbo. Have you noticed this? They always find a way to sneak in turbo. So this is turbo transcript generation is what I think
No,
of it as.
the term used to be blazingly fast. That was blazingly fast. Everything was blazingly fast.
So transcripts just became blazingly fast.
Yeah.
Should change the headline.
Yeah. Is this what we're going to write the blog for? I wonder.
I put the blog post. I put the blog post out last night, and because
nice.
it had to be ready for the weekly Wednesday send.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, surprise, fresh announcement for everybody. Turbo transfer generation. I thought it was good.
Yeah. No, it's super cool. And I mean, we also have that product updates Spotify podcast too. So if you're ever if you're just a super user of JellyPod and you love what we're doing, you're on the weekly Wednesdays, you just can't get enough of JellyPod and you want something else to listen to, go to Spotify and check out our changelog, our product updates. We have a podcast and it's like 2 minutes, 3 minutes every week that comes out saying, what did we release this week? And it just converts all those launch announcements into a very short podcast. And it's kind of a cool way to stay up to date with what we're doing. And if you're from somebody else out here that's doing something similar to us and watching that, let's see if you take that idea as well. And then we'll know you're on these streams and you're watching us.
Most definitely. And then, I before we move off of the product updates, I just want to make sure that everyone gets this. So beyond just the streaming, which is beautiful and nice and everything, there's been just a lot of work that was done to improve the actual transcript itself. So these are the kinds of wins that are hard to see because you don't have an A/B test of what the script would have been and what it is today.
Right.
But there have been changes to all of this to improve the actual fundamental speed and the quality.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious. Like, what are your guys' thoughts? So, like, I did make changes to our system prompts. I tightened it up. I read some documents about like better prompting practices. Made some changes there. Like, just high level vibes. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on like the new scripts? Are they good? Worse? Well, I don't know. Like, what have you seen? If you've seen anything.
So I mean, so far it's like solid. I haven't noticed like it's hard to tell. You can spot the bad thing way more easily than you can spot the good thing, I find. Like but there's been no bad things. So that's good.
Mhm.
Like what I've always gotten tired of is like I don't know if people, the people out there who've tried Notebook 11, for example, like the word deep dive. If I hear that, I'm just like, I don't want to deep dive in anything except
Right.
except a pool or the
Right.
Mediterranean. I don't want to, but besides that, that's what I'm always looking for is making sure that those kinds of words don't show up.
Yeah.
And I have not
I
seen
mean,
this so
I
far.
thought the system prompts were pretty cool, like very solid. And yeah, I tried a lot of the examples. I tried a couple when we were doing
Right.
your PR about the script. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing like how this changes and stuff. It's just like it's something we talked about. There's always a challenge on apples to apples comparison, right? Because
Mhm.
every host is different, every podcast is different, and
Right.
we've talked about like how do we like it's funny because we had the World's Fair, and probably the biggest challenge for everyone was evals, like an evaluation. It's evaluation, and for us, it's like a better script, a better podcast, and uh, you could argue that that's probably one of the grayest areas because that's creativity, right? And
Mhm.
subjectivity versus on the other side, probably the easiest eval would be a math eval, like is 2 + 2 4, right? I mean, you
Right.
can check that. And so we're on the opposite spectrum, which is both cool because I mean it's exciting. We're basically unlocking human creativity. That's our goal here, but also probably one of the hardest things to okay, how do we even track this thing, right? And so it's something we'll just have to I think for a long time it'll just be vibes and guts and you guys telling us like
Mhm.
do you like it or not, and we're just somehow taking that and making a proxy signal from it, but hopefully we can button it up and make it more scientific as well.
It's super interesting. I mean, like, I don't know what your takeaways are from the World's Fair, like last week. If you didn't watch last week, we were all together in San Francisco at the AI Engineer World's Fair. It was this big conference where a bunch of people from all around the world, like 3,000, came to San Francisco, and a bunch of technical nerds, geeking out over the state of AI, essentially. And the one thing that I kind of realized was that there are a lot of people doing really cool things like evals, for example. If you don't know what an eval is, Bilal kind of just explained it, but it's just a way to evaluate the output of an AI. It's like, 2 + 2 = 4, that's correct. But is this podcast script good or bad? That's more fuzzy in a gray area. It's not verifiable. We have this really cool product that we're focusing on script writing. And I mean, there's an opportunity for us, I believe, to like become a dominant player in sort of the creativity eval space. We don't know what those features are. Like, what dimensions do you measure that? But it would be pretty interesting because I think we have a lot of expertise here. We have a lot of
Right.
user feedback vibes,
Yeah,
to be able to,
absolutely.
if we can make high quality scripts and evaluate scripts for their quality on this like fuzzy dimension. I think it becomes very useful for a lot of industries, not only podcasting, but as you're either writing or you're a filmmaker, or you're a book, like there's I don't know, it becomes interesting. Like the evals, Swebench is now like Script Bench or something.
Yeah, no, it's super fascinating. I think the cool one advantage we have is like I think a lot of our users they do edit the scripts, and I think that
Right.
is a great way to like look at okay, this is what we produce, and this is what you update it at, and ideally the goal is you can get the final product in one go. I mean, or it's as close to it as possible as you want it, right? And so uh, that's a direction we've talked about, like okay, how do we take that,
Mhm.
and make our models better or our flow
Totally.
better in general.
I
Yeah.
love that there are two phases to this in my book. The first phase is how can we, we can't tell if something is creatively good, right? But we can tell how close is it to the thing that you had in your head, right?
Mm.
That's what you're saying right now, edits, right? So like the less people edit, the more we know it's what the person wanted to say. Great. Phase one, what you wanted to say. But phase two, in my book, what I'm super, if we ever get here, it would be incredible, is what does the audience want to hear? So as more and more people are consuming JellyPod podcasts, as more and more people use custom websites, we are starting to unlock a data set of like, where do people drop off? What do people like? What do people engage with the most? So at some moment in the future, we could see ourselves optimizing for what gets people to listen the longest.
Mhm.
So
Right.
and then it's like we don't really need, like, for some people, some small business owner, that they don't care what's in their head. Some of them, they just want to reach the most people who can who can learn about their business. And if we can
Right.
automate that, that would be crazy.
I like
No,
that. It's funny. It would be funny if, like, basically the second metric leads us to like gaping mouths and all caps thumbnails, because that's what the algo determined what it gets the clicks. And
You won't believe this podcast.
you won't believe this 2-minute summary is gonna change your life.
Oh, totally. No, it's super interesting. It's like, imagine, because like Mr. Beast, he does this super well. He's a formula that works, and it's virality, and it's consistent over and over again. And if you have access to that, and like the system that helps you create your media, is intelligent enough to understand like what is capturing audience's attention in certain domains, like what format of video or audio resonates the most in what you're trying to achieve, like marketing versus entertainment, very different, and kind of like what the type of hook would be and the duration and these things. But it's pretty cool. I think we've laid a sweet foundation to build on and grow into these things.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. This is super top of mind for me right now because I'm kicking off the next big batch of customer interviews. Thank you to everybody who watches we publish them on YouTube once or twice a week with our various customers. And the core structure has been, who are you? What's your problem? How do we help you solve it? Right. It's sort of just like taking you through a chronological journey. And what I'm going to try to do in this next batch is can we move the hook up? Can we lead with the thing that doesn't chronologically happen, get people excited immediately, and then go and tell the story, kind of how movies do or how documentaries do. So I'm gonna try to see how that works. Hopefully it turns out.
For sure.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, but super interesting. So
We just got a question that we're all reading.
yeah, but we have a live thing, so we're all reading this thing. Yeah. So the question was just around like implementing the platform in their company and AI governance intake questionnaires. I mean, we're open to anything that you need to be done. Just share, like email us, and depending on the requirements, and we'll more than happy just to respond back as accurately and as possible.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you guys are like really good at being in tune with the customers. That's one thing I don't think I've told you guys, but I noticed this. Like, I was at a few talks at the World's Fair of startups who have taken off and stuff. And one of the core things all of them kind of said was like they were obsessed with their like they were like in their Discord just talking to their customers, like what are the issues, etc. And I've like noticed, I'm like, glad you guys are really, I mean, Jason in particular, you're always in the intercom and in Discord, like just talking to people and stuff. And I think that's like crucial, to have that. Yeah.
Ironically, we're automating some of it with Finn, but hopefully that will be more for the. Such a high percentage of the messages now are very informational. Like, how do I make a podcast?
Right.
Yeah. That's such a funny question.
From
You're like, how
product.
do I make a podcast? I'm like, Like,
I think it must be mobile. It must be mobile, but maybe there's like a hidden button or something, or just they haven't opened the app at all yet.
Right. Yeah, and Blake, if you're on here too, I know sometimes you are. Apologies about the delay in getting back to you on the transcripts missing. I looked into that, and it was just we resolved that issue offline. But if you're here, I just wanted to say thanks for bearing with us and got that resolved. So Right. But normally we do this for like about 30 minutes on Wednesdays, but if there's some questions coming in, we'll answer those, and one just did. So we just got this one
Wow.
right here. So it's pretty cool. AI Agent Podcast. I think new user here. Nice to see you. But maybe this is just a stage name. But yeah, I wanted to ask. So he's saying, hey, I wanted to ask if Jellypod will roll out video podcasting, meaning allow us to use avatars like what we're doing now. Yeah, this is something that we're actively looking into and building on. There's been a lot of improvements in quality, speed, in the video space, but still very expensive. And so I would like to know if there's a budget that you have. Like if you want a 30-minute video, like avatar podcast, like Bilal, how much would that cost? Top back of napkin math, like 30-minute avatars.
I mean, I don't even know. Probably hundreds of dollars. I don't know.
1,200 around. I think.
1200? No, not
for
1200.
30 for 30 minutes. Yeah. Usually it's $6 for 8 seconds.
Oh, that's
no,
Vio.
not
No,
Vio.
so that's Vio. But there's other tooling, but it's also ridiculously expensive, and they don't even let you. Some of them, their starter plan, I've noticed like their hobby plan would let you do for a month like 2 minutes. So I'm like, what is that? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, what do you even do for 2 minutes? So I think it's just, but it's improving. The cool thing is every month, every week, something comes out that's really good. And even now, there's tools out there that we can provide you that maybe don't break the bank. The question is like, I think for us, as we have a high bar where we don't want to give you like bad quality lip sync and audio, because it's either going to be good or we rather just, focus on the audio part, and so I think that's our bar. But it's almost like we're waiting for that moment where the cost and quality kind of makes sense for us, to add this on the platform.
Right.
Yeah, if we don't want to watch it, we don't want to put it out.
Yeah.
And for most people too, if you come to the platform and you see like some bad video created, I'm not saying that all the video models are bad, but they're just harder to control, and sometimes outputs can be bad. It reflects on us too, and so most people aren't necessarily the most technical users, and they're not as involved in the space. Kind of going back to what we said at the beginning, we're going to do a podcast about a little bit more news in the AI media gen space and keep you all up to date if you're interested in like what's changing in the world of generative media. But most people aren't in that world, and they don't understand like where the current state of the world is. And so if we generate audio or video and something's really bad, it'll just be frustrating for you. So we're definitely trying to balance that, where the progress is and when we think it's ready.
Yeah,
But
we do know of a lot of our customers. What they do is they generate the audio in Jellypod and they export it to one of these other avatar, video companies, and then they generate. So for some, especially, I mean, this is where it's because a lot of our customers, this is kind of their business, and so it may make sense for them to spend $100-$200 on one video because that's like their business, and so. We're also like, this is something we're still trying to figure out, like what is the sweet spot that makes sense for our users. And, so, yeah, but it's something we think about almost every week we talk about this. So it's definitely on top of mind for us.
if you have a budget AI agent podcast, if you have a budget, I'm curious, is it like $20 per video? Is it $100 per video? Like, yeah. So yeah, we agree. Video is something there. It's just the cost. I mean, it's
You'd be surprised. I don't know. This is a funny thing that we discussed. Video is definitely the big thing for YouTube, but a lot of people are trying to reach people in their cars, and you're not watching a video in their car. Right. A huge amount of our customers are just trying to get on their morning commute on Spotify. Right. So it's funny. There's this bidirectional pull. But to me, I think what's the commonality is the script. And no matter how these video models and audio models come by, no matter how they evolve, you can't get away from the script.
Yes.
Right. And
it's funny. Actually funny you brought that because and we're all excited for this, but hopefully in the next coming weeks, the audio is going to get a lot better, and we're actually going to make it way more natural and stuff, and not just like just the quality, but I feel like audio has so much richness in terms of like laughter, emotion. Like think about sound effects and stuff, and we've talked about this before in terms of music libraries, sound libraries, effects, transitions. As you go between chapters, and I feel like we've now it's kind of shaping up because we actually have the tech there, and it's all about like what is the best way to introduce it. It's
Right.
a part, all these things we work on, partial regenerations. We've added a filter where you can adjust host settings and stuff. And there's drag and drop where you can drag and drop your own music and stuff. And I think it's something, I think it'll come together on the audio side, to Jason's point, that there's so much low hanging fruit there that we can just make the experience way richer before even touching video on the other side. So
Totally. It's super interesting. And I saw Mohammed here too, interested in our podcast and media gen. So we don't have a ETA yet. It'll be sometime this week though. So
yeah,
we'll send a
and we'll
blast out.
post it and link it. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to have this as well. And then, yeah. Oops.
Oh, sorry. No, I want to say I do remember this absolutely, and that's something that's always stuck with me. Of shooting for a 10-minute video. It was also something that I remember from back when I was at Google. There was like a study done that like the optimal time for a webinar was 14 minutes. That's when like the biggest brunt of drop off was. So I shoot for that 10 to 14 minute mark, but sometimes with these conversations they last a while.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean talking about this, we usually do this for 30 minutes on Wednesdays, and we're about at time, a little over time today. So for everybody here, unless there's any closing thoughts, anything else before you wrap up? Or
there's a cool case study. If anybody wants to watch it, hop on the YouTube. Just go one tab over from the live tab, from an ex-DJ from the 80s, hip-hop DJ. Had one hit wonder, awesome guy, was on tour with the Beastie Boys, Run DMC, watched rap go from unheard of to a thing. Wow. And talks about the history of it from his lens and him actually being there. Verseeffect.com if you want to listen to it immediately, or watch the YouTube video first and hear a story. That's Alex.
Wait, this is a Jellypod customer?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. So what is he doing with Jellypod now?
He's making, so like he's got these favorite songs, right? And those songs have have lyrics that are almost like in a time capsule of a moment in time and in history of the community that song kind of emerged from. So he looks into the music, he looks into the lyrics he likes, but it's through this like almost first person lens in a way. But he's made two hosts that he loves and put a lot of work into to communicate in an authentic way to that time. So it's like a fictional, nonfiction, first person time machine into the history of hip hop. So if you're interested in hip hop, check it out.
No, I love that. That is so cool. There's something fascinating about just capturing the nuance on that side. I tried this on my own as a personal project. It was, I don't know if you know Edward Murrows. He was a very famous radio host in the 1930s. And he basically was, I guess, the Walter Cronkite of his generation. Because before radio was like how people got their news in the 20s, 30s it started. And so he was like the morning guy. He would show up and he had these news broadcasts and he would have people over. So he has all these famous, the Great Depression. And so I try to kind of clone his voice, and, he's got the typical 30s static, New Yorker style, voice. And I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool if he did that, but today, And so just mixing and matching those kind of concepts is also cool. There's also this other very interesting Twitter account, which is 100 years ago today. So every day they tweet. So today would be 1925, whatever, right? And so it's crazy to see. And it's basically a screenshot of the newspaper of that day. So it's like, oh, this is what's happening, in the 20s or something, Roosevelt, whatever. Not Roosevelt, would be the president right now. Not Wilson. 25. I forgot who it would be, but it's just interesting to see the world events happening. And the idea is like, oh, it's like real time. People are, so imagine doing that with today or mixing and matching. Anyway, sorry, that was just a ramble, but
No,
fine.
totally.
Yeah.
I love that. I've been thinking a lot about what the nature of what we're doing. From time to time, I go deeper and less. And I was thinking I wanted to get your thoughts on this, but like all podcasting up until now, right, has been like totally nonfiction, right? Two people having a conversation happening live, and we're
Right.
sort of like, and then you have kind of fictional, but ours aren't fictional. They're often grounded in some person's meaning reality, but it's almost like a Remember the Titans, right? That's like fictional, but it's specifically it's a dramatization of something that really happened, but it's meant to tell a true story based on a true story, right?
Mhm.
So I wonder if we're sort of like the based on a true story podcast kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I don't know. So some analogs there.
It reminds me of when. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
It just reminds me of when we were first starting about 7 months ago launching this. We had a Civil War podcast between the Confederate General Robert E. Lee and the Union General Ulysses Grant, and it was kind of this fireside chat between the two generals in the Civil War, and what was going through their heads during that time, and completely fictional, but grounded in reality and facts. And I mean, it was a cool thing. And I looked yesterday that podcast series, I think, has gotten like 350 views. It gets a few listens every week.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's kind of funny. I was like, oh wow.
It's so interesting because I think this is like a challenge because we were trying to think of creative ways to use VO3 and other tools. And I think really the keys to, because we don't, try as we must, we always start subconsciously grounded in reality of what's possible. Like making a human being and stuff. And you gotta be like first person, wait, if I can create anything in the world, why would I be limited by physics? Maybe if you're floating on a cloud, because subconsciously, I think we're trained, no, we can't do that because real footage or it requires cost, but now you can, right? And so it's interesting to mix and match. I posted this yesterday on our channel, but some guy did this podcast. It was Voldemort, and he was like, but it was like a typical podcast. He said, why I actually did not want to kill Harry. And it was like, and other subtitle was like Horcrux strategies and stuff like that. So he's like almost like a strategist or business VC, but he's like talking about world domination. Right. And I'm like, yeah, you can just take these characters. You can do all these interesting, funny things,
It's so
that is
cool.
funny.
And I think you're going to see moving forward, there's going to be more of a blurring lines between fictional movies and media and real life. Just I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, how the cast of Severance, they were in Grand Central Station playing their characters in a glass box and kind of blurring the lines between, hey, this is reality, but the show is coming to reality. And I think you're going to start to see characters from movies, from TV shows have their own podcasts in their character, as if Captain America and Iron Man are having a podcast talking about something, and I think you're going to start to see that, and Jellypod could be the enabler, I think, for that sort of creativity.
Definitely.
But
yeah, so this is, guys, go ahead, create crazy, interesting let your imaginations run wild. You can create any type of host you want, from Robert E. Lee, Abraham Lincoln to Lord Voldemort or whatever. Just mix and match characters. I actually think that's people sometimes get too much boxed in. Think of actually a good way to just create something interesting. You take two boxes and try to mix and match. Like different socks, colored socks.
Right.
That should be a podcast. Different colored socks or something.
Totally. But so I know we're at time here. So I want to thank everybody for hopping on. And if today was the first day that you're seeing our weekly Wednesday, we do this every Wednesday, live streamed on YouTube, X, LinkedIn. So follow us there. And we talk about Jellypod, media, and so we'll talk to everyone next time.